YouTube? This is Danny AR10 here with my review of Super Punch-Out Wii. And let's get right into it. I've had this game since launch. Took me about a couple weeks to really get through the story mode. So right now I am on the last welterweight championship. Let's start off first of all with the gameplay. If you guys are familiar with the original Super Punch-Out or Super Punch-Out for Super Nintendo, then you're gonna be pretty familiar with Super Punch-Out Wii. It doesn't really try to reinvent the game itself, but really capitalize on the original. The controls are a lot like the originals in the way that the gameplay itself is more of a trying to memorize your opponent's moves kind of, and it really turns into a game as it goes on and gets tougher of just memorizing each and every move. And I'm gonna go ahead and just start off with just the easiest boss in the game. I mean, it's just guys to give you a glimpse of the gameplay. Each character has their own specific little moves that they like to pull off, and it's up to you to kind of memorize them. The first guy really doesn't have too many moves to memorize. He's really just kind of just stands there unless you just beat on him. I tend to use the classic the Wii remote turned to the side, and using the 1 and 2 buttons as A and B, and the D-pad on the left hand side as my moves. I'm not really paying much attention as I play here, so he's gonna be knocking me around a little bit. But for the most part, you see each one has their own moves you gotta learn to counter, and you have your basic body blows, your face blows. But what it looks like they've added to this game is at the top left corner above my health bar, you'll see 3 stars and a little heart with a number inside. Those 3 little stars, every time you pull off a counter of sorts, which is each character that you're facing has a moment where they leave themselves vulnerable, and if at that moment you make a contact and you make a punch, or you land the punch, excuse me, you gain a star. Once you gain 3 stars, it entitles you to one super huge punch. That's usually a one-hit knockout. The little hearts, let me go back in there so you guys can take a look at that. The little hearts at the top left, which you'll see in just a second, that is your strength meter. As you land punches, or excuse me, throw punches that don't land, that's your stamina. That will decrease as time goes on, and you have to let that regenerate. As far as the graphics themselves, you guys can see they're really much improved. They use a kind of 3D, kind of cartoony look to it. It's not a 2D game by any means. It is 3D, and the colors are nice and vibrant. I know you guys can see that. I mean, I'm shooting it on my my Kodak ZI6 HD camera. I'm shooting at 30 frames per second to save some space, but it should give you a good idea of how the graphics look. Let me just jump out here so you guys can see some of the game modes that are featured in the game. And we're going to jump back out and see, one of the things I was disappointed with the game is the lack of online play. It does feature a local multiplayer, but it really isn't as inspiring as you would think. I mean, the game's been, I don't know how long the game's been in development for, but you figure, you know, some type of online play with the way this game plays out would have been just perfect. Some people like the multiplayer, the head-to-head. It's a little different. I don't know if I'll be able to launch this with only one controller, but I'll do a brief rundown. Basically, the way it works is you have a split screen down the middle of the screen. It's actually vertical lines, and on each side of the screen you have 2 of the same characters. One I think wears green boxers, one wears blue boxers. The same character you play as in a single player. What's different about it is as you play through the game, or as you face your opponent, you add certain, or you fill up a little meter, excuse me, I'm stumbling upon my words. You fill up a little meter which the person that fills it up the quickest, I believe, gets like a super powered Little Mac. And he turns into like a huge beast where he just unleashes massive punches on people, and it's really, I mean, it's not overpowered as I may think, because you also leave yourself vulnerable with slow punches. I'm just facing Bear Hugger here. A lot of you guys remember him from the, I think he was the Super Nintendo version. But yeah, again, it's all about mastering their, you know, see, I just landed that quick punch and it gave me a little star. It's all about mastering the combinations and the moves that they throw at you. Once you memorize them, it's fairly simple to get to the first, you know, the first 5 or 10 boxers. It is a pretty deep game. It is pretty long. I mean, it is challenging, and there's different levels of challenges. As you progress through the game itself, you unlock not only harder difficulties, but the characters themselves get much tougher, aside from just the difficulty settings you can start off with. That adds some kind of depth to the game itself, because really, it really was disappointing not to have some type of online. Another disappointing thing, well, it's kind of maybe a peeve of mine, is not that it's not supported by the Wii Motion Plus, because it would have been great. It's more the fact that I keep my Wii Motion Plus on my remote all the time for the games that I play. So for me to play this way, the way that I hold the controller, is kind of awkward because the control sticks out quite a bit. It's a lot wider. Let me put this so you guys can take a look. It gets a lot wider. For me to have to hold it like this, it's harder for me to reach that one button. I really gotta reach over to grab it. So that's one thing. It's just more of a peeve. I wish it did support Wii Motion Plus. Is it worth a buy? I mean, you see me play for a little while. If you love Super Punch Out, I'd say go ahead and jump on it, buy it. Once you beat it, I really don't, unless you really want to go back and unlock everything and unlock all the little video clips, and there really isn't any other reason to really go back and play it again. So if I say if it's worth a buy, if I had the opportunity to do it again, I probably wouldn't buy it. I probably would have rented it, and that's more because it's really not that long of a game. And once you get through it the first time, you're not really going to want to go back unless you really want to challenge yourself at the harder difficulties. But yeah, I mean, that's just a quick overview of the game itself. There really isn't much else to really go into. I mean, the career mode is basically how you progress through the game and unlock other fighters to go against. And then you have this gallery option, which really shows you like little brief clips of movies you've unlocked as you progress through the game. I mean, it's nice to go back and see them. Some of them are animated and pretty nice. But for the most part, there really isn't much depth to the game, aside after you beat it once. But don't get me wrong, the playthrough the first time is really fun. And on a scale of 1 to 10, I probably would have to give this, I'd probably give it an 8. An 8's fair. Really just because the multiplayer is lacking. There's no online, which is really disappointing. The graphics are great, the gameplay is great, but there's really so much, you know, graphics, and I mean, I guess single player gameplay can take you, because after that, I mean, you're spending $50 on a game, and with the market the way it is, there's so many multiplayer games coming out, games like The Conduit, games like Tiger Woods 2010 and Grand Slam Tennis, which feature robust online modes. So this is really something that if you really want to play it, I'd recommend just rent it. Give it a rent. If you're really inclined and you really like it, then you can go out and buy it. You're better off spending, you know, $5 or $7, how much it is nowadays, to rent a game, than to blow $50 on a game you're never gonna play again. So that was just my quick overview. I do have much more reviews to come. Hopefully I will have the Ghostbusters review if I do pick it up later today. Aside from that, just like always, please subscribe, rate, comment. If you guys like my videos, I'm gonna keep putting them out. And follow me again on the Twitter, DannyAR10. Thanks so much for all your support, guys, and I'm gonna keep these videos coming as long as you guys keep watching. Thanks again.